Hey kiddos, now we're going to get to the fun part, I think, of earth science. And today's lesson is about types of rocks and the rock cycle. Did you know there was a rock cycle and that rocks change over time? We'll find out in this lesson today. So let's get to it. Okay, so rocks are found almost anywhere. People paint them, people collect them, and they climb them. There's so many different kinds of rocks, and sometimes we just pass them by without looking very closely. But they're beautiful and amazing. So there are different types of rocks. There are three main types that are classified by how they're formed. We have igneous rock, sedimentary rock, and metamorphic rock. See if you, before you can change the next slide, can tell which ones are which in this picture here. All right, so the first rock up is igneous rock, formed when magma or molten rock cooled and hardened. In Latin, igneous rock means from fire. Guess what? Magma's hot. When partial melting of rock occurs, different types of rock are formed. Different igneous rocks have formed when different minerals have different cooling points. So because not all the minerals in our earth cool at the same rate, they all form different types of rock as they cool. The ones that cool the fastest tend to be the biggest rocks. Intrusive igneous rock is rocks that have cooled and hardened beneath the surface. So intrusive igneous rocks are rocks that are not above the surface originally. When they cooled and hardened, they were beneath the surface. So extrusive igneous rock happens when lava cools and hardens on the Earth's surface. So this would be after the lava comes out and gets hardened. A lot of times those would be something like this pumice stone that you see here. So let's try the next one. And next we have sedimentary rocks. Look at all this. Okay, so the really cool thing about sedimentary rocks is that these are fragments of other rocks, other minerals, and other materials that just get all pressed together. Sediment, which is something that occurs naturally on Earth, and the weather causes the pieces of the rock to break off and to move and to compress. Now, clastic sedimentary rocks are made up of stuff that has been carried to other locations and formed by compaction and cementation. Sandstone that we see up here in the corner is an example of that. So basically, sedimentary rocks is a bunch of different rocks that have just been kind of compressed together. So we have also organic sedimentary rock. That's the remains of plants and animals when they compact together and they become fossil rocks like this we see in the bottom corner here. Or coal. Coal is actually made from the remains of plants and animals. The third kind of sedimentary rock that you'll see is chemical sedimentary rock. This happens when dissolved minerals settle in water and form deposit. So think about what is going on here with sedimentary rocks. These are pieces of the earth that just kind of break off. A lot of times they'll travel to the bottom of a river and sit there at the bottom of the river for a very long time. So the next thing we have, the third type of rock we're going to talk about, is metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rock form when heat and pressure and hot fluids cause the rocks to change into other rocks. So rocks change. They change because they break off, They change because they get compressed. They change because they get heated. And metamorphic rock can change shape, size, or separate into layers. This happens deep inside the Earth's crust. So these are not, this is not happening on the Earth's crust. This is deep. This is there down below what we can see. Metamorphic rock is classified by its texture. Foliated metamorphic rock has bands of different minerals. So if you look at the gneiss and even the slate and the marble, you see different bands of different minerals. These bands are alternate of different minerals are alternating. Slate is the most common form, and it is formed from shale being compressed and changed. And shale was a type of igneous rock. So now non-foliated metamorphic rocks do not have bands. So marble, it looks kind of like it has bands, but I guess it really isn't example of a foliated metamorphic rock, says bands are not as formed, but the hornfels and the marble are examples of the non-foliated metamorphic rock. Marble is formed when limestone is changed and compressed. So we see limestone a lot of times in fencing materials and different type statues and stuff. Marble is actually part of limestone. So let's see. So now we're going to talk about the rock cycle. Remember, I was telling you that all rocks can become other rocks. Rocks too, I think when we think of rocks, we think of something that really doesn't change very much. Honestly, there's nothing, we couldn't get our stove hot enough to melt most rocks. So any of the three major types of rocks can be changed into the three types of rocks. This is what we call the rock cycle. You can start with any type of rocks in the rock cycle, and it can change. This is just an example that I have for you. One example is the igneous rock, that one right here. Remember, that's cooling lava or cooling magma. Igneous rock can be broken into pieces by the weather. And when that happens, it changes to sediment at the bottom of a lake. Over time, it forms a sedimentary rock down at the bottom of the lake. And that sedimentary rock gets buried deeper and deeper and deeper into the Earth's crust until the heat in the Earth's crust is hot enough to change it to metamorphic rock. Under the right temperature and conditions, metamorphic rock can come back up to the top of the Earth and become igneous rock. Most of the Earth's crust has repeated this cycle many times. All right, so final thoughts. Today, I want you to go to the rocks I've laid out and see if you can classify them into one of the three main rock types. Draw any kind of graph that you would like to show what you have found. Thanks, guys.